issues, problems, and their solutions on various fields, including art and culture, healthcare, environment, education, and many more. Each webinar is an interactive session with a deeper understanding of the topic at hand. If you miss any part of the session or would like to go through the previous sessions, kindly visit our website, vishwa.org, or Vishwa Talks YouTube channel for a full library of past Vishwa Talks on various interesting topics. Today, we are privileged to have with us someone who has spent over 2 decades serving our nation at sea and experienced firsthand the discipline, courage, teamwork, and decision making required to serve in the Indian Navy. Commander Sudarshan Chakrapani is a veteran Indian Navy submariner and seafarer who served for over 24 years in the Indian Navy. During his distinguished career, he was involved in the commissioning of 2 submarines and gained extensive experience in some of the most demanding and challenging environments at sea. After his naval service, Commander Sudarshan continued his work in the areas of leadership, mentoring, and personality development, particularly through his association with the Services Selection Board SSB and leadership training. His experience offers us a unique perspective not just on maritime defense and the role of the Indian Navy, but also on the qualities that help individuals remain calm, resilient, disciplined, and decisive when faced with pressure and uncertainty. Today, he will take us into the unseen world of India's maritime defense and share insights into how the Indian Navy safeguards our nation's interests beneath the surface while drawing valuable lessons from his own experiences at sea. Please join me in warmly welcoming Commander Sudarshan Chakrapani to Vishwa Talks. Over to you, sir. A very good morning, sir.
Right. Good morning and many thanks. I hope my voice is carrying and is clear.
Loud and clear, sir.
Excellent. So it is indeed a proud privilege for me to be with you all in this August gathering. And I do realize that we have the 15th August coming up very soon. And there are a number of times, one of these is 15th August, where one does remember all that the armed forces have done as far as the armed force is concerned. Can I share my screen if that is all right?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, so I okay. Uh, 1 second. Just give me a moment, please. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So this
Could you
is
please turn it to could you please turn it to full screen?
yeah, that's what I am
Yes,
on.
now it's visible, sir.
Now it's
Thank you so
visible.
much.
Okay. Right. So this is the maritime world, the maritime India, and it is a view as far as I'm concerned from underwater because that is where I spent most of my service life beneath the waves. Well, I have in my mind divided into two parts. The first part is learning to sail. You have to start learning to sail first, right? You can't suddenly go at sea right away. And the second part is action stations. That is what happens when you are at sea and what happens thereafter. So let's move on very quickly. A simple question first. Where is India's strategic frontier? Where does it begin? Anybody would like to take a guess at it? Prashant, you want to take a guess? See, among the most common answers I hear is the land borders, the Himalayas, the border with Pakistan, the border with China, the border with wherever you want to talk of. My own view is the Indian strategic border begins at the sea. Just turn the map of India the other way around. You will realize how small India and the Asian continent is, the South Asia, and how large is the sea. That is our actual strategic frontier. India's prosperity, everything begins at the sea. Most of India's trade comes from here. Our energy is from here. Your undersea cables carry the digital world. Any stoppage, anything as far as any of the choke points is concerned, spells catastrophe. Whether it is fuel, it's exports, it's financial, digital financials, you name it. As far as India is concerned, nay, as far as the world is concerned, the ocean is your first and final frontier. It is essential for everyday life as far as any human being anywhere is concerned. Take a look at the map that I've shown. This is the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Ocean region has got multiple choke points. One of them is Hormuz, where my mouse is. This is where ships are stuck, and this is where Iran is making a bit of a trouble, and you have the world reeling under oil. You have the Bab el Mandab, where at Yemen, again another area which is getting choked. China spends a lot of time, sleepless nights because of the Straits of Malacca and further down the Sunda Straits, right? And then if you have to enter the Indian Ocean and not go through any of these, you have to come through the Mozambique Channel or from down south in South Africa. Effectively, you can see a mariner sees the ocean differently. The mariner sees movement here. He sees ships, he sees tankers, he sees data, he sees all these choke points, the sea lanes of communications, we call them SLOCs for short. And we see the IORA, that is the Indian Ocean Regional Association that India has created with all the Indian Ocean littorals, and we see how we can improve our own well-being together. And we had a project called Sagar, and that has now become Mahasagar. So that is where we are, right? The Indian Ocean is among the busiest strategic highways in the world. Disruption disrupts energy. Look at the cost of shipping, the energy, the premium, the supply chains. This is exactly what has been happening in the last 6 months. The Persian Gulf, the Red Sea. And if we push ourselves a little more, as far as Russia and Ukraine is concerned, because of fertilizers and grain from Ukraine cannot come as much as they could, we also have a problem with food, the Black Sea. Maritime security, therefore, in my opinion, is an economic security issue. And economic security is national security. So, as far as all of us are concerned, if we ignore the sea, we ignore ourselves, we ignore our well being, right? Traditionally, you remember we spoke about the land frontiers. This is what all our land frontiers were. Whether it was the Battle of Haldigati, the Panipat, the Plassey, the British came in, the Hyder Ali and the troops came in, you name it, even go further back, a theory which is debunked now, the Aryan invasion. I personally believe the Aryans never invaded, they were already here. But yet, the Aryan invasion theory, all over land. The only one person who came from the sea and was never a part of India were the British. They came, they ruled, they went back. Everybody else came into India and settled in India. That is the major difference, and that is the importance of the sea. If today we speak English and not Dutch, it is because at the Battle of Kolachal, the Martand Varma defeated the Dutch. And the Dutch withdrew not just from India and Sri Lanka, and they moved into Dutch Indochina, right? Historically, if land was in focus, why has the sea returned? We all heard about the Silk Route, but do you really know that ancient Indus Valley civilization artifacts were found in Europe? Which means even few thousand years before Christ, India was trading with Europe. The rule of Chola spread as far away as most of Indochina. The British ruled the world because they controlled global trade. Sadly, that did not change this perception as far as sea is concerned. But what really changed is the convergence of power in the ocean. Why? Energy is moving across oceans because there's no other way of moving that quantity of energy. Trade is moving across oceans. Critical minerals, food, data, competition between major powers is again has a maritime dimension. Indo-Pacific is now emerged as the major defining geopolitical things areas of our time, which is why you can see after centuries of focus of land, India is turning to the ocean all over again. We are now starting to think maritime. I would just plant this thought. Go back to the Indus Valley civilization. We were a maritime nation. We built ships. There is a very famous story which says when Vasco da Gama was coming into India, he sailed on the biggest ship the Europeans could build. He came as far down as South Africa. At the Cape of Good Hope, he said, I want to go to India. How do I go there? So he was asking people around and he said, hey, look at this. There is one Indian sailor here. He's come in a ship. He will guide you across. Now, nobody knows what the name of the sailor was because in the logbook of Vasco da Gama, that name is blanked off. But he's supposed to have spoken to him and he said, okay, I'll take you along. Till South Africa, Vasco da Gama was sailing or going along the coast of Africa till he reached South Africa. Now, the Indian sailor, who was a Gujarati, let's call him Patel for want of a better name. So Patel tells him, look, I will escort you around, and Patel escorts him. In the center was his Vasco's ship. At four corners were Patel's ships. All four ships were bigger than Vasco da Gama's ship. They were more powerful. They had to slow down. And he guided Vasco da Gama to Cochin. Thereafter turned north and vanished into the ocean. That is how Vasco da Gama reached India. We were a maritime nation. Right? So we are now back to being a maritime nation. This is reliving the Bronze Age. We are where we are. For as far as India is concerned, it has now become a strategic necessity. Geography has changed this. The government has not. Military campaign has not. It is a gift of geography. So, if ocean was so important, why have we not thought of it before? And why don't we think about it more? That is the basic question one has to answer. Now, my view, it's the perspective that matters. We were stuck on land. Most of our wars happened in the north, and therefore the soldiers saw land, the sailors saw the sea. Now, when it comes to submarines, we submariners, and I am a submariner and a very proud submariner at that, we experience the ocean differently. We navigate in a world where there is no light. There is only sound. Patience is more valuable than speed. Uncertainty is a constant companion. It is that unique perspective that I want you to come into, travel with me into time, into future as well as the past, not from above the water, but from beneath the water, from under the water. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the underwater world. The ocean looks different from underwater. Everyone feels the ocean is quiet, the ocean is silent, but it is not. The ocean is alive. However, a lot of people have been asking me, what is life in a submarine? My answer generally surprises, in fact, shocks everybody because it is not about adventure, it's about discipline, it's about patience, it's about teamwork, it's about you learning that everything is not in your hands. you can only do certain things in a certain way, but you can never know everything. You still have to take decisions. That's a lesson that one applies not just to the submarines, it applies to national strategy. Nobody on earth can say that he knows everything. Nobody on earth can say that he knows everything about even an eeny weeny tiny thing. Therefore, we have to live in an uncertain world, what we now today call the VUCA world. We understand this VUCA world through a different method, through sound. Because light doesn't travel, the sound travels. Every ship has a signature. Every propeller has a unique sound. Every machine has a rhythm. Ocean has a voice. Have you ever heard whales talk? I have. Have you ever heard shoals of fish talk? I have. The challenge here is how do you distinguish the sound of a submarine, the sound of a ship, from the sound of the fish? How do you distinguish the signal from the noise? So, therefore, it is not what you hear. The question is what you are not hearing. I'll tell you a story, very interesting one. Long back, I just got married, and my wife always had a problem as to how to wake me up. She would make all types of noise, switch on the music system, switch on the TV, nothing disturbed me. She would put Pink Floyd on and at loudest of volumes, no matter. But she would turn on the tap and the water would start flowing, and I was up. Because that other noise were all supposed to be there. The sound of running water is not supposed to be there in a submarine. That woke me up. That needs training. That needs patience. Because training is doing the same thing again, 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 till you get sick and tired of doing it and you still go back and do it again. That needs experience because you have to feel it. And then, most of all, it needs trust. The ocean, like I said, is changing. It is constantly changing. The temperature changes, the pressure changes. Every ocean, because of the change in pressure, forms a layer. Sound travels within those layers. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the theory of sound, but leave it there. Acoustic conditions change in the water. Therefore, as far as submarine is concerned, nature is a very, very active participant in his life. The environment influences the tactic. So this comes to home or drives home a very important lesson. Technology is very important. I worked in an IT company, Tech Mahindra, for 14 years. I headed marketing or one part of marketing and was looking after strategic initiatives. It is not important understanding the technology. What is important was understanding the environment where the technology is going to be used. Because the highest technology stuff is still used maybe by an utter idiot and it has to be made dummy friendly for him. The other important lesson is geography is important, environment is important, and they change and shape strategy. The ocean is not where competition happens. The ocean itself is your competitor, right? What is unique about the submariners or submarines is they're not seen. Yet, they are the ones who change the behavior of others. You may not know where a submarine is located, but it forces you to put resources so that you know where the submarine could be. You will expend resources. That is what creates caution, creates uncertainty, and that's exactly the way deterrence works. Deterrence in whichever sphere you want. So, therefore, among the most important lesson I learned was success does not produce noise. Success is generally silent. It is the failures that make headlines. The successes are generally hidden far away. That is true for submariners. That is true for a nation. That is true for a people, and that is true for a strategy also. So, one of the biggest lessons here, like I said, noise is not strength. Quiet confidence is more effective. I'll give an example. We were in a war patrol in a submarine. We were off one of our enemies, close to his border, close to his seas. We were silent because every sound which is metallic or unknown or not supposed to be there in the ocean is a sound created by a man-made body. Underwater, that man-made body is a submarine. Therefore, the submarine has to be absolutely quiet. We call this the ultra quiet state, in which we will not even open and close doors. We call them hatches, because the hatch closing and opening also makes noise. We will not transmit on our sonar. We will be on passive sonar. We are only listening. Right? From the sounds that we are listening is where we get to know what is happening. And that indicates to us what is happening in the environment around us. Think back. God has given us 2 ears, only one mouth, implicitly telling us, please listen more, talk less. You will never learn unless you listen. This is the greatest or best examples I can think of, lessons from underwater. Take the next one. The most important one is preparation. Improvisation will always happen, yes, but your success starts even before you have started. So even before a submarine sets sail from your own harbor, it goes through workup, it goes through preparation. Even the day we are sailing out, we do what is called sea in action. We spend 4 hours before we have to sail out and test every single bit of equipment, every and thoroughly at that. Everything that can go wrong is assumed to have gone wrong, and we'll check whether it is happening or not, whether we can manage it or not. We practice, 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 still more practice, yet more practice, even more practice. We even do a blindfold test so that even when water comes inside the submarine underwater, right, the first casualty is electricity. You will have to switch it off. If you have switched off electricity, there is no light. You have to work by instinct. You have to work with your eyes have not eyes closed, but your ears become your eyes. Your nose becomes your eyes. Your touch becomes your eyes. And that's how you work. And that is how success, actually, you lay the foundation of success. It happens even before the crisis happens. I had this experience when we were in at sea, and suddenly there was a total power failure, and I was in the control room, and I just very calmly said, "Bubble center, bubble forward, bubble aft." They just and air was inserted at high pressure into our ballast tanks, and we came up so that we could repair whatever we had to. But it was quiet. And the reason why the respective peoples could do what they had to do is because they had practiced it so many times before. They knew exactly which equipment to touch, how to switch it on, how to work it. Technology does not replace judgment. Technology supports judgment. It's the people that make judgment. Technology has a habit of failing when it matters the most. Right? All our high-tech stuff works on electricity. When water comes into a submarine, electricity is the first casualty. But you still have to survive. So technology is only helping you. It is not replacing the human being. It is not replacing the man at the spot. It's the man at the spot is who's going to take a decision. And what will he do then makes a difference. Trust is power. I'll give another example. We were at a depth of over 150 meters. I was a young lieutenant. I was doing some watchkeeping in the engine room, in the engine control room, in the engine control room, MCR. There was one watchkeeper there, out there. There was one more. There were a few other people on watch, and suddenly a rubber compensator bursts and water starts coming in. At that stage, the officer cannot do everything. The officer was in one remote corner. The person concerned, there was one LME Vising, I remember his name, Vising, who was right there, who went, shut the compensator, shut the main valve, the hull valve, and the flooding stopped. While all this was happening, no report was given, yet the control room took the appropriate decision, trusting the person concerned will take the correct action. They issued orders and they didn't wait for a completion report that this has been done. You trusted. You implicitly trust the person concerned. When you trust, it is the entire unit that did this job. See, when water comes into the submarine at 150 meters, the submarine starts going down. It starts going down like a stone. At that time, it is not one man who saves the submarine. It is the entire team that works. And that team works when the team has operated together, performed actions together, and has trust in each other. Which is why submariners are a dream apart. We trust each other. We know if the submariner has said something, he will do it. It doesn't matter what he has said. We have a saying, the impossible we do immediately, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes a little time. That is what we believe in. Right? Patience is a weapon. Because great powers have failed because they confuse speed with success. Just look at US and Iran. US thought it'll bomb Iran out of the world, quickly do everything, tuck, 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 tuck. What happened? 6 months down the line, US has got tired of bombing Iran. Iran has been taking punishment and has done and is still continuing to hit back. Patience. History always rewards all who remain focused throughout the decades. Look at Iran again. Iran created underground bunkers, underground facilities for itself, knowing fully well that it might get hit by US or Israel, and the only answer it would have is underground. You've still not been able to eliminate the entire leadership of Iran. Patience is a great virtue. The submarine does that exactly. The submarine speed underwater is limited, it's slow. Yet the submarine is waiting patiently for the prey to come to it. Because come to it, it will. And at that time, when it matters, it will show speed. Otherwise, it's patient. So now let's get out of the preparation part. Let us get on to the action stations. Look at the world around us. The world around us teaches us that maritime strategy works. Conflict shows how and where it does. Right? Maritime strategy in theory is one part, in practice is another part. Wars are a classroom. They teach us, every navy, every nation, what maritime actions would be required for the 21st century. Let's take a look at what I believe. The ocean has come back. The ocean is not our boundary. It is a bridge to the future. And therefore, we have to be ready for it. Now let's take a look at the three wars that are going on right now. Straits of Hormuz. What has Iran done? It has created uncertainty. You're not sure whether there are mines or there are no mines. You're not sure who will hit, which ship will be hit, and where. How it will be hit. That it is that uncertainty which Iran has caused, which has boxed up everything inside. Then Iran has shown its ability to be able to hit with missiles at will, including long range. Even if they are dumb missiles, even if they are not very great missiles, they have still kept the US Navy at bay. Take Black Sea. Underwater drones have hit Russian ships in harbor and at sea. It is now such a flashpoint as far as the world is concerned, that the world is reeling under a food shortage because Ukraine, in many ways, was the food basket, the grain basket for Africa. Ukraine is where we got our, or a lot of countries got fertilizer from. Take Bab el Mandab. It's the Houthis, a ragtag organization of terrorists who have kept Saudi Arabia at bay, and they were hitting Saudi Arabia at will using low tech, high intensity drones. What is it telling us? It is telling us the nature of warfare is changing. It's also telling us one more important thing: how important is the sea? How important is it to defend the sea? How important is it to keep our sea lanes of communication open? All these wars have different actors. They all have different causes. Yet they are all pointing to the same conclusion. The oceans have returned as the center of geopolitics. Freedom at sea is critical for sea, as far as trade is concerned. Just look at the choke points that are there. 3 of the 7 major choke points are in where we are. Sorry, 4 of them. 3 of them is what are affected by Iran and the war that is going on. The Hormuz, the Bab el Mandab, and Suez. Because Iran hit a ship outside of Suez in the Mediterranean, a US gas carrier. In addition to that, you have the Malacca Straits, where India has an island right on top, the Great Nicobar Island. China is very dependent on it. And I don't have to tell you why there are some people in India who are against the GNI base that is coming up. India has also gone ahead and signed a deal to operate one of the ports just on the south of the Great Nicobar Island of Indonesia. Together with Indonesia and Singapore, we patrol the Malacca Straits. Effectively, we control in some ways Chinese access into the Indian Ocean. Right? The other ones are, of course, the Straits of Gibraltar, the English Channel, and the Panama Canal. Protecting the slock is the key to protecting the trade. Because all trade goes along the highways that we call as slock. And energy security is equal to national security. If you don't have energy security, you are not going anywhere. And the key to national security, the energy security, begins at sea. Just a couple of minutes on one thing which we hear all the time: the string of pearls which China has put in around us to in some way to ensure India remains boxed in. How true is it? Well, you can see various ports that China has got. Gwadar, it has got in Maldives, the Hambantota port. It's got a port in Cambodia, the Kwaku in Myanmar, and of course Djibouti. In some way, it is by and large boxed in India in this manner. It is making major inroads in Bangladesh. It has created a submarine pen, 6 submarine pens, while Bangladesh has only 2 submarines. Obviously, it wants to keep its own submarines there. Yet, has India done something about it? What is India's response? India's response is a necklace of diamonds. Just look at it. Wherever the string of pearls is, what has India done? We've got a port in Chabahar. We have a port in Dakam, that's in Oman. Seychelles. We got Galathea Bay, that is the Great Nicobar Islands in the Andaman Nicobar Islands. We are selling BrahMos to Philippines, to Indonesia. Right? With Quad, we are with Japan. And we got a good relationship with Russia, and we put in with Mongolia. Effectively, We are covered or actually boxed China in with our necklace of diamonds. China cannot exit from here into the ocean because it has the first island chain, that is Japan, Philippines, Vietnam, all of the Indonesia, and the only way it can do it is either through Taiwan, the Taiwan Straits here, or through the Philippine Straits, or come down to the Andaman, down south of Andamans. That is what China calls the Malacca dilemma. It cannot come in the Indian Ocean, or it finds it difficult. Even if they are here in Indian Ocean, have they done anything? There is a major Chinese base at Djibouti. There are at times four, at times more ships there. At least three times in the last 1 year, there have been piracy incidents, and Chinese ships were the closest to that piracy incident. They switched off their radars, they switched off their transponders, and vanished into Djibouti. It was the Indian Navy which rescued them. Effectively, China is telling, I do not have stomach for a fight. But is that all that defines maritime power? Maritime power, is it only Navy? Yes, Navy has a major role to play in controlling the sea. It has a major role to play in denying somebody else the ability to control the sea or get into the sea. But there are 10 other items there: merchant shipping, ports, your ship construction, shipbuilding, logistics, digital connectivity, industrial capacity, diplomacy, technology, and most important, national resolve. It is that national resolve which was missing, or which is missing as far as China is concerned. It may have all the others, but national resolve missing. It has not played any role either in Op Sindoor except supporting Pakistan, or in Iran. It has provided the missiles, it has provided targeting data, but has not intervened. Venezuela, where it lost big time, it did not intervene. It has shown that it is not, and of course, I told you so many incidents where it could have intervened in piracy, but chose to ignore it. India, like I said, is a maritime power. If you have to be maritime, if you have to be a maritime power, again, we have to secure our ocean. The security of oceans starts with the Navy, yes, but it's not the only thing. So, what should India's maritime strategy be? Sea control, sea denial, obviously. Domain awareness. We have a maritime domain awareness center in Gurgaon. It's called the Fusion Center. At one time, there was only one fusion center in this part of the world, which was in Singapore. We have one bigger, more powerful in Gurgaon. Out here, we have representatives from various governments, including the navies of US, UK, France, Singapore, Australia, many others. Why? Because what is happening in the Indian Ocean is a matter of concern for every one of us. The Chinese are known to fish and fish extensively, gulping away fish of your own, from your territorial waters, from your EEZ, your oceans, for themselves. So domain awareness is important. Your maritime economy, what we call as the blue economy. It is from ports to secure to shipping, but more importantly, security. We'll all remember an incident where drugs were found in one of the Adani ports. You'll all remember the incidents of piracy. We'll all remember all of them. Therefore, it is important that security is maintained. Don't forget, the Brits came from the sea. 26/11 of our own Taj incident, those terrorists came from the sea. Security is paramount. Our islands are our strategic assets. Because we have the Andaman Nicobar Islands on one side, the Lakshadweep Islands on the other side, they are unsinkable aircraft carriers. You can base your air assets there. You can create bases there. And by that, you control the sea. Technology is, of course, an important part. But maritime diplomacy plays an important role. How was Quad formed? Quad was formed because India was among the first respondents for a tsunami which happened in the Asia Pac region. That is where Japan realized, Shinzo Abe realized that India is there and together we can create magic. Quad was born. We have Sagar and Mahasagar. We have the IORA. Why? This is all to ensure that we can come to support, to help, and create what we call as the rules-based order. Strategic autonomy is something that we've been talking about all the time. We want to be able to do our things our way. If we have to do that, we have to be strong at sea. We have to be able to secure our maritime logistics, our energy supply chain. Just think of it. Indian Navy has escorted ships through the Hormuz when required. But for all of that, you need a maritime mindset, a consciousness as far as India is concerned that maritime is the area to go. And finally, the national will. Because Navy can't operate alone. Shipping cannot operate alone. Merchant Navy cannot operate alone. Your fishermen cannot operate alone. It is a combination of all of it, which means an all of nation approach. Unless the entire nation is together, we are not going anywhere. And that, in my opinion, are the 10 pillars of a maritime nation, the 10 pillars of the Indian maritime nation. During my years in uniform, there's one lesson that always stayed with me. The captain of the ship or the submarine cannot change weather. He cannot change geography. But he can prepare his crew. He can understand the environment and take the decision which is best available as far as the available information is concerned. There was a great admiral who was the story of the Second World War, and he was commanding at in the Pacific Ocean, and he led his fleet into disaster because he went through a storm. When he was asked about it, did you make a wrong decision? He said, yes, I took a wrong decision. But given the circumstances, given the information I had, that was the best decision I could have taken. And if the same thing is repeated, I probably will repeat the same decision because that's the best I can. If the ship faces these challenges, the nation faces the same challenges. India cannot change its geography. India cannot remove Pakistan or China or Bangladesh or Maldives from our neighborhood. We can only use that geography to our advantage. We can only choose how we respond to it. Let me end on a very personal note. I have had the privilege of serving in the Indian Navy. It is probably the best part of the Navy. It is the best part of the Navy. I have served with some of the best people on earth. People imagine submarines as symbols of power. No, sir. They are something different. A submarine teaches us humility because the ocean is different. It is much greater than rank. It does not care about the titles. It does not care about intentions. The ocean responds to only preparation, your professionalism, your discipline, and your teamwork. Exactly the same which a country needs. One of the first lessons a submariner learns is you do not profess or possess the perfect information. You can never see the complete picture. You make decisions with incomplete knowledge. Yet, you trust your training. You trust your crew. You trust your judgment. But you accept responsibility for that judgment, for that decision. I left Navy in 2007. 14 years I worked in Tech Mahindra, an organization I started with Satyam and that became Mahendra Satyam and Tech Mahendra. The lesson I carried forward, because these lessons were not just for submariners, it is lessons for everybody who is or who wants or who thinks he can be a leader. These are lessons for institutions. These are lessons for the nation also. A submariner sees very little, but he understands a great deal. We in India are safeguarding a maritime civilization. The question is not whether India will become a maritime nation. It will. But the question is, when will we start thinking like a maritime nation? That Indian Ocean is central to India's dream of Viksit Bharat. The ocean does not reward the loudest, right? It rewards who deserves to be rewarded. The 21st century will not be for those who make more noise or who are the strongest. It belongs to those who will prepare wisely, who will think strategically, and invest with patience. Because nothing happens in a day. So, one final thought that I have, whenever we speak about maritime strategy, we always speak about fleets, aircraft, missiles, technology. Yet, all of this we forget that it is the men, the women who operate them that matter. It's the every ship that sails, every submarine that dives, every aircraft that takes off, every Coast Guard vessel that rescues life at sea, every merchant ship that is bringing home your cargo, every fishing boat that goes out to get your fish. That is what is India doing. It is not about power. It is about not about steel. It's about people. It's built with professionalism, courage, competence, and dedication. I have had the honor, the privilege of serving alongside such men that I consider they were the biggest teachers on earth as far as I'm concerned. They were the best people who worked with me, who walked with me, who taught me, who supported me. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and patience, and thank you for joining us on such a short notice. It was a privilege listening to you. Before we move on to the Q&A, I'd like to take 30 seconds of everyone's time for a poll. This will help us get to know you better and tailor future topics that we bring to you. A big thanks to everyone here today. Your presence and participation means a lot to us. While you fill out the poll, I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Commander Sudarshan Chakrabarti sir for sharing his valuable time and insights with us. Requesting all of the participants to quickly interact with the poll. Also, if anybody has any questions, kindly use the raise hand tool by pressing the react button on Zoom, or you can type down your question in the chat box. So there's a question from Mr. Suhas. What do you do when curious fish approach the submarine during an ocean drive? Have you had any interesting or have you had any interesting or memorable encounters that you can share with us?
Oh, yes. See, fishes, especially shoals of fish, come and go, but we are in metallic body, so they really don't can't do much. If one fish does strike against the hull of the submarine, it strikes. It will not realize anything. We will not come to know. But yes, we have had encounters with whales. Don't forget, whales are huge. They are bigger than even a submarine at times. So yes, there is a situation where things can happen, but we've had whales come by, they maybe have touched us and they've gone by because we are metallic structures, metallic body. Not really much will happen to us. I've heard
The
whale sounds.
underwater sound, that's,
I've heard whale
so
sounds.
that's amazing. So, the underworld, I mean, the underwater world has been researched very less. We know like very less about it. per se, as per general knowledge. You're still finding new species of aquatic life and a lot more to discover underwater. Have you encountered anything that has been very, very fishy? I mean, I would say dark or, could maybe even termed slightly paranormal or something like that. Because you're in a container, you're constantly in I don't know, for someone like me, it would be slightly claustrophobic. But yeah, months and months together in a container, and you could have encountered or listened to so many weird things. Could you please shed some light on it?
See, among the most interesting sounds I have heard is, when you have these Chinese submarines or when they are transmitting their sonars on their sonars, or they're good traveling, they're quite noisy ones. So you don't even need a sonar. If they're close by, and I say close by, even 5 miles, 10 miles away, you can hear it. Sonar you can hear from much longer distance. You don't need a sonar. And you can hear something like a jaltaran, multiple three or four, five different frequencies. You're hearing tring like that. So you know the sonar is
Okay.
pinging you. Okay. The scariest sonar sound that you can hear is when you're on a war patrol close to the enemy coast, and there is the you can hear a helicopter sound, because there's that rotor sound, and the rotor helicopter is about 50 feet or so above the water. So the sound is also getting transmitted through the water. It is duck, 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 duck. You can get that sound, and then you hear a sonar, an active sonar pinging. Scariest sound, right? There are times in which people don't realize how close or how far the submarine is. To scare the submarine away, they'll just drop small scare charges. Basically, about 200, 400, 500 grams of small explosive, and throw it, explode in the water. It won't do any damage, but it'll scare you because you can hear that sound. So yes, those are all experiences one has, and what is most important is how you keep calm when all of that is happening.
Right.
Right.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to now unmute Mr. Shmuel. Uh, Sir, could you please unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. And I want to ask you a question. How, according to your opinion, maritime and the maritime technologies can support resolution problems of poverty, social inequality, and food security?
Thank you for your question, Shemul. Is that correct way to pronounce your name?
Yeah, Shmuel.
You're from Israel, is it?
Yeah, of course.
How nice. So, Shalom, Shemul. It's a pleasure to hear you and a pleasure to answer your question. See, what is finally the ocean? The ocean is the greatest of all equalizers. It does not respect rank, it does not respect title, it does not respect nationality. It respects your preparation. It respects how well you can use technology, right? Most of technology that has been created over the years has been finally what it started from use in weapons, in war fighting, but finally landed up with the civil use, right? The oceans have, like I said, if you have to be a maritime nation, only two of the 12 points concern the navy or the military. 10 of them are for others. And that is what promotes equality. That's what promotes justice. That's what promotes equal opportunity. And that is the reason why, whether it is the US or it is India, whether it is Israel or anyone else, we are all saying oceans must be free. There has to be freedom of the sea, because then every country can carry out its trade freely without fear. That is something which, in my opinion, Iran is missing in this entire story. I have no problem with Iran having a war with United States. They're privileged to decide. I have no trouble if they feel that Israel is the enemy, so be it. I'm not going to tell them they're making a mistake because Israel is not going to let them breathe in peace because Israel is threatened. But I will definitely tell them that you are making the biggest of mistakes by trying to restrict access through the Straits of Hormuz. You are doing the biggest mistake by trying to instigate the Houthis to stop ships at Bab el Mandab. You are doing the biggest mistake by doing other things because all of this will come back to bite you.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you.
Thank you, Shmuel, for joining us. Uh, Moving on to the next question, there's a question from a guest. So, Operation Trident during 1971 war is considered one of the Indian Navy's most successful operations. What made it so effective, and what lessons can today's generation learn from it?
See, Operation Trident did what? It showcased India's ability to use or improvise whatever it had. We had a situation wherein the 7th Fleet was getting into India. We had a situation where Pakistan had the better of submarines. We had a situation where Pakistan felt that it could do a lot more. What did we end up doing? We ended up towing missile boats with anti-ship missiles and used them on shore targets in Karachi, something which they were never designed to be used. We towed a boat, a missile boat, 150 tons displacement, all the way short of Karachi at a time or at a situation where nobody expected us to be there. And we did it not once, but twice. So the sea victory belongs to those who prepare. It belongs to those who are disciplined. It belongs to those who improvise, and you cannot do it unless you know your equipment, you know your strengths, you know your men, you trust your people. That is the biggest lesson of Trident teaches, and that lesson is valid even today. In my opinion, it will be valid till such time human race exists on Earth.
Thank you, sir. So there's a question from a guest. You've led people and made difficult decisions under pressure. What is one principle you've learned in the Navy that you believe every young person should apply in their lives?
That's a difficult question to answer because there are many of them that I believe. But if I have to pick one, that'll be trust. See, you cannot be everywhere. You cannot do everything. Yet you have to get a job done. To get a job done, you will never have all the resources that you need. You will never have all the knowledge you need. But if you trust the person who's working with you and you can delegate him responsibility, because only then can you delegate. If you don't trust him, you'll never do it. And don't supervise him, don't micromanage him, and trust him to deliver. I think that, in my opinion, is the biggest thing that I have learned, and that is something which I have implemented at home also. Let me give a very simple, small example, irrelevant example. But I have two boys. Now they were growing up, there was liquor at home. I used to tell them, ki, beta, the liquor is in this cupboard, the cupboard is not locked. The cupboard is within reach of your hand. But Papa trusts you not to do the wrong thing. Papa trusts you that you will give Papa the privilege of having the first drink on your 18th birthday with him. Believe me, they had enough times in which their friends said, hey, nobody will get to know, yaar, we will have a small drink, we'll do this, we'll do that. They did not. That is what trust does.
Thank you so much, sir. There's a question from Rakesh. Sir, with threats like submarines, drones, missiles, and cyber attacks becoming more advanced, how does India protect its naval bases today?
See, all that is in its own place. Let's face it. Even during the 71 war, Pakistan had saber jets. We had Nats. Pakistan had the best of equipment. We had outdated stuff. Take Sindhu. Pakistan had the HQ-9s, the HQ-15. They had the Saab IRI long-range airborne weapons, airborne systems. What happened? It is not what you have that matters. It is how you use
How
it
you
that
use it.
matters.
Right.
Right? We used cheaper guns. You know, the L-70 gun was there when I was a cadet. I was a cadet in 1983, 82. Right? From 82, that gun, 40 years down the line, we got it to, we made it controlled by radar, we got it electric, this thing, and we made it accurate. Same with Shilka. Same with ZSU-23. It is what you have and how you use it that matters. Now, as far as specifics is concerned, I would very politely not go into it because that's probably not a part of my brief.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Uh, in spite of having friendly diplomatic ties with Iran, why are Indian commercial vessels often attacked? What is the solution for this issue?
See, there's a small misconception here that I would like to clear. As far as Indian commercial vessels are concerned, there have been very few that have been attacked. A lot of vessels have been attacked where there have been Indians on board. Now, as things stand today, almost 12% of all mariners across the globe are Indians.
Are
Which
Indians,
means
right?
any ship you take, there will be at least one Indian there. In the Persian Gulf, that percentage goes up from 12, 13% to some people claim even 40% or maybe even more. Which means every ship has more than one Indian there. So it's just a matter of chance that Indians are there. Okay. Now comes Iran. Problem with Iran is I don't think anybody knows who's controlling Iran. You have Pezeshkian who says he has never met Mustafa, who is the supreme leader. You have the Galibaf whose whereabouts are unknown. You have the IRGC who says that they are in touch with Mustafa and he is issuing orders, but nobody has seen Mustafa. There are reports that one has heard that Mustafa is dead. There's one report which I saw today morning or yesterday was it, which said Mustafa has been rushed to a hospital. Who is running Iran? Now, Iran did a smart thing by having a distributed leadership system, which was they had designed that in case the top leadership goes, every district commander is his own boss and he does what he feels like. It worked. But today, when Iran is trying to look for peace, it is not working because the guy doesn't know what he is doing and nobody is controlling him. Right? This is a war, in my opinion, Iran won and is now losing it. This is a war which the US cannot win. It is not lost either, but it cannot win. But it will end up winning because Iran would lose it. Now, there's an old saying as far as Mahabharata is concerned. Whether you trust Krishna or not, whether you trust the Pandavas or not, but you can trust Duryodhan to do something wrong. Here, Duryodhan is Iran. You can trust it to do something wrong.
Thank you, sir. Uh, what do you think people misunderstand most about what it actually takes to operate a submarine during a conflict?
See, the most important thing out here to understand is the fact that a submarine is blind, as far as visual is concerned. That is a concept which most of us cannot understand. Right? As far as we are concerned, because we are land based, we say, how can somebody be so blind? How can you not see? Or why can't you have windows on a submarine? We can see outside. But even if you see outside, what will you see? There's no light.
Right.
And if you have windows, even if it is made of the best tempered glass, any explosion underwater will create pressure waves, will crack the glass. Okay. They say, okay, you can't see, but you can always have a radar. But radar is electromagnetic wave. If light is not going, how will electromagnetic wave go? So that doesn't work either. It's only sound then. Then sound, water is not a homogeneous medium. So sound will not travel the way anything travels in a homogeneous medium. So the biggest trouble for me to explain to anybody, how will I target somebody? How will I know somebody is there? Which means I have to be quiet. That's what I said. Noise is not what is shows struggle. You have to be prepared. That's why preparation is so immaterial. Right? You could have the highest or greatest of technology stuff, but then you still have to hear that sound. You still have to identify that sound. And most of all, you have to have the patience because your speeds are limited. You have to wait for the target to come to you. You can't go to the target. That is probably the biggest difficulty the one has.
Thank you, sir. So, just for my general knowledge, I wanted to know, according to you, except for USA, who might have some of the most powerful, underrated naval fleet in the world?
Very difficult to give this answer because just imagine US has claimed it has decimated Iran,
Right,
right? But it's the Iranian Navy which is holding fort. Iranian Air Force is missing. Iranian Army is not seen in action. Take Ukraine. Ukraine has a negligible navy, but has used drones to a very effective way to keep the Russian Navy at bay.
right.
So who is the most powerful navy?
Yeah, the method of warfare itself has changed and evolved a lot in the
Absolutely.
last.
Absolutely. So it is how you use what you have that matters.
Time. Right. Thank you again, sir. Um, Moving on to the next last question in the chat box. If you had to explain submarine life to someone who has never experienced it, not the military part, but the everyday living part, what would you tell them?
Okay, it's a life where there are no secrets. It's a life where you trust the other person implicitly. It's a life where you probably have had the best time, the most difficult time, yet a most satisfying time together.
Thank you so much, sir. With that, we've covered all of the questions in this chat box. And once we asked, I was told that you also have to exit by 12:10. So I'm going to
That's correct.
request you to quickly join into the breakout room link that you will see on your screen. And we'll exit from there. Before that, if you'd like to share anything with the participants before clicking the link, kindly do so.
So all I can say is to all the participants, it is great you joined. It will be greater if you understand what the Navy does. It will be the greatest if you have understood what a submariner does. Look forward to having more interactions with you. Till then, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. For anybody who's missed any part of this session, kindly visit our website, vishwa.org. Also, Vishwa Talks YouTube channel to find the recording of this complete session along with the PPT. And if you have any queries, you can write to us on via our website. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next week again. Kindly join into the link, sir. Thank you.